And we're live.
And we're live.
And we're live for the July 10th meeting of the Cross-Project Council for the OpenJS Foundation. I'm here with several representatives of OpenJS Foundation projects, regular members and voting members. Welcome, everyone. As we get started, are there any announcements to make today? Anything going on in your projects or OpenJSF related you want to share with each other or the community?
Does it, hi, Giuseppe here. Does it make sense to share Node.js rep election results for the OpenJSF Board of Directors?
Yeah.
Great, so I'll give a brief update there. The Node.js project, we had two people step up for the representative on the OpenJS Foundation Board of Directors. Node gets a director's slot, and James Snell and Michael Dawson were the two folks in the election. And over the weekend, it was announced that Michael Dawson had won the election, so he will be the Node.js rep on the OpenJS Board of Directors.
Awesome. Congratulations to Michael, and who is not here because he's at the TSC meeting. So I'm snapping my fingers instead of clapping out loud. I think that's okay. Cool. Anything else? I'll just share that we're nearing the end of the review period for the Node plus JS interactive proposals. So those of you who stepped up to participate in the proposal review process, just a quick reminder that those are due tomorrow, so we can get started announcing in the next in the coming weeks our schedule for Node.js interactive in December. So that's it. Cool. I will move us on to the first action, or the first agenda item then, which is issue number 234, who can be an observer? And as just a quick reminder, the action item on this issue after last meeting was to update some language via PR, and I am like glad / ashamed to say that I did issue a PR for this just a few moments ago. So if we want to take a look at that issue and review the PR.
I put a link in the chat.
Thank you so much. Let's.
You put the wrong one.
I got you covered. I put in the right one. I was like, oh wait, did I put in the wrong one? No, we're good.
Okay, cool. So just a quick recap of this issue. We wanted to clarify what the role of observer really was and what the intent was there. There were some pieces of sample language provided by Michaels, Dawson, and Dolan. And we incorporated that. Giuseppe and I were tasked with doing a PR, and we did that like maybe 30 minutes ago. So you can check that out, and we'll just make sure that it captures the intent. There wasn't anything else we were hoping to see reflected in this.
A quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So because this change is currently in the charter that would require board approval to land,
Mm-hmm.
is it something that would be better to be documented in the governance document so that we can make future changes without requiring board approval?
I think so. Just because I can't imagine that this would be something that this is me assuming. I can't imagine that this would be something that the board would really care about. But that's for wiser people than I.
Would it, if I may ask, would it make sense to pull out all three, descriptions in the charter and move all three of them to governance? The observers, regular members, and voting members?
So as far as I know,
just observers?
To keep the membership levels themselves in the charter, because that's part of the charter, but how one becomes that type of member and the structure around it can be in governance. So I'm going to see if I can find an example of a split there.
Okay, and in which case we would still need board approval for the charter changes, but we can move the details into governance so that in the future it would work out a little smoother.
Hey, to be honest, this is Mike Dolan. The changes here are really more around the decorum of participation of observers, and so it's less about the actual governance. So I think the proposal to put it somewhere else is potentially a useful path.
Yeah, to be more explicit, like I don't think that we need to do anything inside of the charter. Where we could put it, if you look inside of the README itself, we have like the membership, voting members, and regular members. If we want to make it like as discoverable as possible, we could put under the CPC meetings like a note, like change a note there. So it says CPC members. We could say like who's invited to the meetings, and that anyone's able to join as an observer, and then just kind of like the note about decorum.
Interesting. So that would be on every meeting issue, and that would be where we would keep the details?
No, I'm suggesting the README for the cross-project council repo.
Oh, got it, got it.
I mean, I think that does make sense to me in that it just surfaces more obviously to those who come to our repo and get curious about what we are and what we're doing, that they're welcome to chime into a meeting if they want to get involved.
And if we make this change and it's not to the governance doc or to the charter, if it's just to the README, then we just need the copy there in 72 hours and we can land that between meetings.
So if I'm hearing correctly, then the update to this this PR/issue would be to basically move this text over to the README, and then possibly open a different PR against the charter that pulls the descriptions out into governance.
I don't think we need to change the charter at all.
Okay.
We still need to keep in the charter the descriptions of like what the particular membership classes are. We just, in my personal opinion, don't need anything there about like decorum or like how one gets elected. Like we technically have the governance around how regular members are elected in the README as well for discoverability.
Does everybody agree with that? Does that sound like a reasonable thing? Sound good? I'm up for like the easiest path of least resistance here. Cool. All right. All right. So action item is to move this text to the README and no change to the charter. Groove-tastic. Okay. The next action item, if we're ready to move on, is the approved charter changes for Node.js charter. And forgive me, I thought this was settled. Oh, Joe, if you could correct me here. This is one that Michael Dawson said was ready to land because it had been 14 days. Yes. Yeah.
So this is pull request 238. Let's see, where am I? So we're talking about issue 199, which is approved charter changes for Node.js charter. If you scroll down to the bottom, Michael, reiterates what we talked about in the previous meeting, that it's worth getting pull request 238 landed. That I will drop into the chat here. That PR is pretty much ready to go. It's been around for 14 days. Right, is this the one I'm thinking about here? Yeah, 14 days ago. It's got a number of approvals. So I think that there's no objections and that we can probably move forward on this and then move forward on the issue that references it, the 199 issue. Does that make sense? So I see Dave Methvin had a number of comments on this. I just want to confirm that, Dave, you agree these updates seem ratifiable and we're good?
Yeah, they look good to me.
Okay, super.
Yep, and Dave's approval is on there too, so that's good.
So, all right. So to be clear, I'm trying to take notes and do this at the same time. The action item is that we're good to close number 238.
Should I go ahead and land number 698 on the TSC repo?
And land 698. I think so. I think that's what we're saying.
Do we
And
need
then-
a quorum from voting members in order to do that?
Well, I think we had a quorum on the topic of the updates to the charter. That's settled. It's just the these governance changes were the thing that Michael Dawson wanted settled before.
Yeah, does that make sense? So we're landing the PR to update the governance related to charter changes first, which is this issue here, pull request 238. And then once that's landed, then we can feel comfortable approving the Node.js TSC charter changes. ComCom charter changes should be coming soon. And then, we have a pathway forward on these sorts of things. Make sense?
Sounds like it.
Yep.
All right, great.
Awesome. All right. And then if I am not mistaken, then that will mean that we can close number 199.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great.
Miles has merged the pull request 238, so let the dominoes fall.
Yes.
There's also number 240, which is a slight change to governance. That one has been open for 14 days as well, and I think we should close that if we can.
Yep. Yeah. So I added this to the issue for today's meeting as well. Michael and I were talking about it earlier today, and yes, absolutely, we can land this puppy. And then there's also pull request 220. Yeah, 220 I think is ready to go too. Although it says it has conflicts.
Do we want to go ahead and take those since they're sort of in line with where the conversation is now? We can start with 240 and then go to 220 and discuss those really quick. Joe?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Cool.
So 240 is fixed rules for landing rules with CPC charter changes. Basically, it's a one-line addition. The text of the change must be approved by a simple majority of the voting members. This is in the governance doc. I'm trying to open it up to see, get more context, but of course my internet is not.
So this is specifically for CPC charter changes. It's stating that you need a simple majority of the CPC voting members to approve the change in order for it to land.
Perfect. Great. So jumping back to the review, I think we have a number of approvals. It's been open for 2 weeks, so I think we can merge this one in as well.
Just a quick question on that one. Is there significance in the fact that one is talking about the text of the change, but the board must approve the text of the PR, or does that mean the same thing? Yeah, I'm comparing line 86 and 87.
They mean the same things.
Okay.
Would you like me to edit it so that the copies identical between the two?
If that's easy, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for calling that out. Great. So then if there aren't any objections, once that update happens, we can merge that in. And then 220, we have a conflict on 220 that we'll just have to resolve and then can merge that in.
I can take care of that.
Okay, thank you, Miles.
All right, so action items here are on 240, quick fix to language for matching, then merge. And then 220, we're also landing. Groovy. Oh, this feels so productive to be closing landing pull requests. Go team.
That's great.
All right. While we're feeling so productive, there anything else we want to like? Just kidding. Review times is the next item on our agenda. As a reminder, we are looking to find another time that we can alternate between every other week, just to accommodate people in further Eastern time zones. So I'm trying to go remember what the last action item was on this issue.
I was going to, I had requested that folks make sure that they are in the spreadsheet of time options. It's been brought up a couple of times that a person on the node side has a tool that better analyzes the choices rather than just finding which one is the row, the column with the most numbers. I was hoping to find some time to break out, voting members, regular members, observers. I'm not even sure, how valuable that is per se, other than, just making sure we have quorum of voting members. I've been thinking about this, and it's really difficult to find a good time that meets everyone's needs. I'm wondering, my thinking was to try and find a better time for, folks that are further east, Asia and whatnot. I'm not sure. It would be great to get some input from folks that are too far east for these meeting times. And we can try and see what would work for them. I hesitate to just pick something that arbitrarily I think might be good for some folks if I don't know if that's, if I'm solving a problem that, I don't have much input on. Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. But I guess what I'm noticing is that we have this just like little bit of a chicken and an egg problem, right? Where we need input from these populations in order to make an informed decision, but we're also don't seem to be getting that input. And so then the question is that really a problem? Because that's not coming our way, despite I think sharing that this is something we want to accommodate. So I think the secondary problem is providing an alternating time so that we don't conflict as often with other maybe recurring meetings that people have, like the TSC meeting or people's work meetings, that kind of thing. So I think I would propose that we work with the data that we have to find a second time and just across the bridge of accommodating somebody in, say, like Japan, when we meet that person and that person, I don't know. That's, I guess, my 2 cents.
Yeah, that makes sense. Should we just find another time slot that looks good based on the numbers, maybe even a couple of them, and propose them as individual comments in an issue and see what sort of thumbs we get on them? Or what do people suggest on how to move forward on this challenge?
That seems reasonable. Like, if somebody decides to take a look and say, okay, well, these 2 or 3 options seem like next best options based on the data, and folks can weigh in. and maybe through that process, somebody will come forward and say, well, actually there's a bunch of people in Australia that want to participate. Great. Let's do it. But this particular open issue, it just feels like something where we should make a decision on, and then just agree that this will be something that we probably come back to many, many times in our future history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I will take a stab at that right after this meeting. Throw a couple of comments into this issue 129. It's been around for a little while, but it seems like it makes the most sense to drop it in there. And then maybe if we could surface this to the projects list, I guess, that we're looking at a couple of options for an alternate time for this meeting.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, that's something we can put out in the newsletter and share in our project meetings and stuff like that.
Okay, so I'll put a couple together on Wednesday, and I think the other day that we were looking at was Tuesday. So I'll try to maybe grab a couple from each and drop them into that issue.
Super. Other thoughts? Great. Or? Nope. Okay, groovy. Last item is post-bootstrap work to be managed by the CPC. That is number 115, but we also have I think a project board. Just a link to that.
Yeah, projects 3 is the board. I dropped it into the chat there. There are 2 boards listed, but one of them is already closed out.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Let me go to that link, post bootstrap board. All right, let's just do a quick review of the items in our in progress and then to do board. We can figure out if we need to assign people to these issues or what actions we can take to move them forward. The first ticket is number 172, new process for CPC reps to share responsibility for travel fund. I believe this is one that we had that we discussed last week with Tracy Hines and Michael Dawson on the call.
Yeah, I think if I may jump in, Jory, I think that we landed where I was going to drop something in, I think the node admin repo as more of an FYI than kind of getting input on the fact that we're moving forward on figuring out from the CPC level what travel fund would look like. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Miles or Jory or anyone else on the call.
I seem to recall something like that. I also did send out in the newsletter last week just a line that said this was something that we were going to be tackling in a direction that we were heading in, and let us know if there was any additional comments or thoughts or ideas that people had. And so far, nobody responded to the newsletter with that. But hey, it's a newsletter, so we read those like maybe every other week. So
I read them.
Thank you. So we'll just we can keep circulating this information. I would kind of like to suggest that we think about maybe assigning someone to just oversee that this task gets kicked forward or moved on.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. There's 2 people with their hands up waiting to
be. I'm so sorry. Jeez, I've been trying to take notes and everything else. I apologize, y'all. Okay. Oh, I'm not a host anymore, so I can't promote. Let me ask Brian. Can you promote?
Brian or Dolan or Rachel.
Cool.
It's done.
Okay, cool. Evan, you have your hand up. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. So last meeting we had the discussion regarding the travel funds, and then I think it would be appropriate for now because we should discuss this at least, like to move this forward. Because last time we were blocked by this issue, but now we have a momentum to go forward with actually deciding. That's what I was going to say. That's all.
I second the motion.
To
Great.
decide.
To, I guess, discuss this further as a CPC initiative or a CPC program, if I understand correctly.
I think like the best next
maybe.
step.
Go ahead, Miles.
I was going to say that the best next step, if we want to move this forward as a CPC initiative, my guess would be we have the proposal process. I think we need to make a stage 1 proposal for the travel fund. If someone wants to take that on, that would be great. So if you go into, I'll drop it, the proposals folder. Inside of there is a template. So you just need to fill out the template. I just dropped the thing in there, and you can look at the staging process as a way to quickly see how to do that. Although I'm noticing I'm about to open a pull request because it still says proposal on it. But if we want to, I think the best course of action, because this is a larger proposal that requires funds from the board, a budget, and consensus across the projects, I think going through the proposal process would be the best way forward.
Yeah, I agree. Miles, since this kind of was born out of the Node project, can you give a quick overview on how this has functioned in the past?
How the program has functioned in the past?
Yeah.
So we have a line item in the budget of the foundation itself. I believe this year was $60,000. Dolan, Brian, can you correct me if I'm wrong there? Okay, no corrections. I'll assume I'm right. So we have a line item.
You're right. Sorry, Mouse. Took me a second to get off mute. That's correct. 60,000.
Okay, cool. So that budget is approved by the board, and previously the Node project was chartered to oversee this budget. We administered it in a repo we called admin. In that repo, we maintained a spreadsheet with all the information, although Brian can chime in with a new process that he's been suggesting using Expensify. People put in requests to the admin repo, and there's some governance around what's needed in order to get that approved. What we likely need to do is, create a proposal for a travel fund for the foundation proper. And, in that proposal would include probably some of the information around how we would manage it, how people would apply for it. You could probably just lift the majority of the governance text from what we have over on the Node project, as well as what Brian has proposed for the new process. A stage 1 proposal for that could come in. That could probably land next week. It's not too controversial that we want to explore it. And then basically we would just need to reach consensus on the text to get that to stage 2, in which case we would need to bring it to the board. The board would need to approve the budget, in which case it could go to stage 3.
Great.
So I super +1 to the then tackling this through the proposal process.
Last week, I think it was Michael Dawson who was expressing concerns that before we did a proposal, they wanted to just sort of like politely let people on the Node project.
Actually, sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks
sorry,
for
hello.
pointing that out. But yeah, I just joined late. But what I really was trying to say was just we should, before we make a decision, we should basically inform, and as an FYI saying, here's the plans, right? Just because it's an existing project. So I think the suggestion to make like a stage 1 proposal, which could outline what we're thinking, and then sending that as an FYI to the TSC and the ComCom makes a lot of sense, because it basically says we're just thinking about it because it's stage 1. So give us your input, and then we'll go through.
Cool.
Great.
All right. So I
do see that Evan has his hand up. Is that?
No,
I
I
think
just
that was
had
from before.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
had my round.
Sorry.
Thank you, Michael.
So
okay.
Should we assign this proposal to someone?
Well, that was going to be the thing that I was about to ask, if anybody is feeling like they want to volunteer for crafting this stage 1 proposal. Probably prefer to do that than voluntold somebody to do it. So, har that was a bad joke.
It's a really good first proposal for those who want to step up and play with governance. A lot of the governance already exists. This is like doing a PR where all the code already is split up across repos. It's a copy paste job.
Okay, we'll give it some thought. I think maybe it's not too appropriate to put somebody on the spot or pressure anybody to do it. So we'll just, yeah.
If no one's volunteering, I could give it a try. But I don't know anything about how the previous one was run, so I'll just be mainly like taking those documents.
You are very welcome to reach out to Evan. I assume that was you. I wasn't looking at my chat. I'm happy to help you.
That was Jonah.
Jonah. Sorry, Jonah. I'm happy to help you with the proposal process, just to get started and everything, if that would be.
Okay. And who was it who was talking?
That was Miles sharing before all the details. I've been trying to drop a link into Zoom, but I'm having internet trouble. Basically, if you go to the github.com/nodejs/admin, you'll see one of the files is member travel fund, and there's a lot of information there that you could get, pull a lot from.
Jonah, Brian has also been administering a lot of the travel fund the last couple months. So he would be an excellent resource, in my personal opinion, as someone to pair with and figure out how to move forward with this.
Yep, I am happy to help. I mean, where I can give particular pointers is just in ways to streamline the process to make it go a little faster.
Yeah, and who was it who had ideas about Expensify?
That was me.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and that's actually, I'd put together a pull request to the against the travel process in the node admin repo, and it was accepted last week. So that final text that's there just basically has, the new process. Well, it's a new process, but it's an additional process. So as Miles had said, the old way of doing it was people filled out a spreadsheet. They had to put together a zip file of expenses, photos of receipts and that sort of thing. It's cumbersome and time consuming, and I don't think anybody actually liked it, particularly me. But we still have that process in case anybody wants it, but it's considerably easier to do it via Expensify. So these are administrative things. I mean, it doesn't change the approvals process or anything else like that. But I'm happy to chime in and help anywhere that I can.
Cool.
Yeah, and similarly, if you can't get a hold of Miles or want any other context on how it's worked in the past, just reach out to me. I'm happy to help there too.
Thanks.
Super, go team. All right, moving then to issue number 161, also in the in progress column of our board here, is draft initial process for electing voting members from the non-impact projects. This was opened by Miles. I think we've had some progress made or some at least discussions on this, mostly between, I think, Nick O'Leary and Michael Dawson and Chris Hiller. Do y'all have any updates or comments to share on where this sort of bucket of, I guess we did have number 220.
There is an open PR, and it's number 220 here. I'll drop that in the chat.
We just landed.
There's been a number of discussion back and forth. I think we have consensus, at least to the point where, people have said they might have preferred a difference in how ties are handled, but they're not necessarily objecting to what's written there.
So 220 landed earlier in the meeting, Michael.
Oh,
So
okay. Then I guess we are done, right? Isn't that the? Because
I
that's
think
the
so,
same
yeah.
thing for the board, unless collecting members for the non-impact projects, right?
Yep.
So I think that one just can be closed out.
It looks like Joe needs to be promoted.
Yeah, either way, I'm on the call with my phone. It's, you know, whatever.
All right, so we can close it.
Yep.
Woohoo!
Yay. So productive.
Yes. All right. Then that means we can go to the, I will hit close issue. All right, that means we can go to the to-do list now, and maybe see if there's anything that really quick that needs to be popped into the in progress section.
I think 211, actually, there's a PR, which maybe you discussed earlier in the meeting too. So that's probably in progress, right?
I think so. Let's go take a look at that one, 211.
And I think that's one of the ones we landed, right?
211 is about charters, so I don't think we landed 238 today. Did we land 238? Yes, we did.
So we should be able to move that to done. Yay.
We're good.
All right. Who wants to do the honors on that one?
Can I just drag it over? There we go. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Maybe that didn't do it, but I can close it.
Awesome. Let's go to first on my column is add entry point for projects wanting to join on README and review project progression. Jory will help with this one.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Jory. I was going to say, does it make sense for us to chat a little bit about project progression overall right now? Take a moment on that.
Yeah, let's do. That's a great idea. Does anybody object to that? It's very topical.
Sounds good.
No objections.
Okay,
Good.
groovy. Thank you for raising that, Joe. I say that it's very topical because you know, I've fielded several inquiries from projects that are really excited about joining the foundation, and so we obviously would love to get them started really quickly, and I believe, or as soon as we possibly can. And I believe that we are just inches away from calling the project progression proposal done. We'd like to take that to the board and have you know, any approval or feedback from them pretty quickly. And I also believe that Brian Warner has created the new projects mailing list for projects to be able to submit their applications and enter the silent period. I'm an architect as one of our existing projects has volunteered to you know, dog food the process as well. I would love for us to feel comfortable and confident starting to intake these applications. And I'd like to just get a sense from everybody if you all feel prepared and ready to do that, if we feel prepared and ready to take that on.
I guess one update that's good to give people. I don't know if everyone's reviewed the pull request that accompanies the proposal. There's a slight change to the project progression proposal, the biggest one being the introduction of a new project's email address for new projects to send their application to in the quiet period. Brian has gone ahead and created that email address, and the initial membership are all of the voting and regular members. So I just want to make sure that no one has any concerns with that. One of the biggest things is that we'll need to be able to like keep those discussions private, and make sure that, you know, when people are applying to become a part of the foundation, until they've opted into the incubation period, I think there's an expectation of anonymity or like a certain degree of embargo on that information. You know, a large project may want to plan some sort of press release around it, or alternatively, if it doesn't work out, they don't want to be surprised or like make a whole stink in the ecosystem if it doesn't work out. So just want to make sure, because that's the biggest bit that I think we need to have consensus on to move forward.
Miles, I'll just add that the membership in this list does include the board of directors as well. So board of directors, CPC voting members, and CPC regular members.
Makes sense.
And I guess the main question there is like, you know, both voting and regular members versus just voting members, right? Because the voting members are part of the, like, are the ones in the governance that are tasked with making the final decision. There's obviously they need that loop, but
I think that this is one of the examples of where having a regular member, to me, starts to really make sense. I think the voting members are definitely important from like the bylaws of the foundation and making sure that we have, you know, proper representation.
Yep.
But having a bit of a broader set of people who can review these applications, I think will be very beneficial.
Yeah. No, yeah, that, I mean, makes sense. I'm +1, was calling out that's sort of the key thing. I think that if there were anybody had concerns, that's the thing to call out, to think about.
Yeah, and it validates the whole concept. Sorry, Jory, I was going to say it validates the whole concept of regular members. You know, the voting members. I don't know that we're all working on this together.
Yeah.
I think to drive a finer point home on sort of how important this quiet period or kind of a period of embargo where we have discussions on new project applications internally and not in a public facing way. I think Miles and I were discussing as we were authoring one of the last drafts that really a violation of that, you know, would be considered a code of conduct violation, because we do want to make sure that we're respecting the process here. And so I just want to maybe double click a little bit on what Miles was saying, that I think this is something we really need to take seriously, because it's very important.
Do you think that perhaps we should land a membership expectation doc that makes it explicitly clear what the rules are regarding, you know, keeping things confidential, among other things? Because we do have something kind of like that over in Nodeland.
Well, we already landed the equivalent of that member expectations document, but I think strengthening it to specifically call out this could make sense. Like, I'm almost wondering, even if like on that mailing list, is it possible to add a header that basically says, you know, hey, reminder, this is all very confidential?
Yes, I can put that in the footer. It's certainly possible.
Because it's always just the more ways that you see it and say, oh yeah, I better be careful with this information, the better, I think, for everybody, really.
I agree. And I think it's just one of those things that's it's more likely to happen accidentally than it is on purpose. And so just being vigilant about that is.
Yeah. So doing that kind of thing. And I think also, like, it wouldn't be bad to add to the governance on the members, whatever, somewhere that basically says, like what Miles said, that, you know, this would be considered possibly a COCE violation or grounds for removal as a member if, you know, if it's, you know, obviously people make mistakes, so not like on a mistake kind of thing, but if it was a pattern, that would be grounds. Just
So
to
that I'm
reinforce how important it is.
Yeah. So that I'm clear on the message footer, the voting board and regular members should have all gotten my intro email. Is everybody okay with me basically just modifying that text down to maybe a sentence or two to drop into the footer of all messages that go out to the list? What we have in mind?
If you could also, Brian, add the word confidential to, I believe that like a lot of mailing lists allow you to add kind of like a prefix to the title of the email.
Sure can.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, because I think those two things would definitely help.
Okay. That'll be live shortly.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Did we answer your question, Jory, about being ready?
Well, I mean, I think yes and no. This is also a big kind of step toward that, because there's assurances we want to be able to provide some of these projects, that we will be, discreet during this period of diligence, and that this goes, I think, a good step forward. But I think I'm eager to help these projects start to get to know us and to come into the organization. I would hope that everybody else shares my enthusiasm, but that's for y'all to say, not me.
I sure do. So I was just wondering if there's anything that's blocking. It would be nice to get that landed, but other than that, it seems like having emails come in saying, "Hey, let's start the process," is the best way to validate we've got it right and bits and stuff. So.
And I think we've got a couple projects who we've got obviously one internal project already, architect who's happy to dog food it, and we've got a couple of potential projects who are more comfortable with it being, and they're understanding that this is a new process that we're figuring out, so they're more comfortable with it being something we learn as we go. But I don't want to move forward on my own confidence. I'd like to move forward on the confidence of the entire CPC.
Rory, I think at this point, in my personal opinion, one of the biggest things we need to make sure of is that the board has no objections to the defined process, because we don't want to be setting projects up for failure or getting them moving on a process that's not going to land. I sent an email to the board with an overview, I guess earlier this week, I think on Monday. I'm still waiting for some responses. The next board meeting is scheduled for about 2 weeks from now, and I'm sure that will be on the agenda. Brian and Mike, how long would you say would be reasonable to wait for the board to have reviewed it?
I mean, I'd say a week, and we can certainly send reminder emails.
I'd agree with Brian.
So, Jory, with that in mind, we probably are ready to start accepting applications by mid next week.
I would say you could start proceeding with this, and if the board has any adjustments or changes they're going to require, then we can take that accommodation into account. But I wouldn't necessarily hold up for board approval, to be honest. I think the board expects the CPC to be sort of self-running and operating. So I don't think there's any intention to hold things back until approval on everything. It's up to you, Miles, though. I
guess the other factor too is that, if you open up applications, how far into the process are you going to get in 1 week, right? So it's not like we'll be at the end and then there's requested changes.
Yeah, that's my other thought there, Michael, is I don't anticipate many change requests or any, but if there are any, I don't think.
Right, and even in the worst case, we're only a week in. It's not too far, right? So
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, Miles, what your take is on that.
I guess it was more just if they had a problem with the embargoed information process from the get-go, or if there was some sort of challenge to that I don't know. I just didn't want to have us doing something that's problematic. But
yeah, it's fair enough about the who gets to see the initial applications and stuff like that. I mean, flip side too is waiting one more week is probably not critical either, right?
With that being said, because we have Brian and Mike on the call from the LF who have more experience, than I do in, dealing with boards, dealing with various foundations, if they don't see anything that in that proposal that's standing out to them, I think that's a pretty reasonable signal.
Yeah, I think in the next week, the most you can do is suggest to projects that are interested to start looking at the requirements and how they would respond to it. And I doubt you're going to get somebody to actually turn that around in a week. And
Also,
Yeah.
worst case, some project like makes a new code of conduct. Yay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the furthest we could possibly get with any of the current candidates is that, we make progress on the application, which is a document that we all landed last week or 2 weeks ago, just collecting that information and possibly sending it on to they may send it on to our new email address. But I think what's important is that initial email and that initial submission of the application starts the dialogue and starts the conversation about what the project needs to adjust, change, information we need, that kind of thing. It's none of these questions are going to be answered in full in a week, for sure. Okay, so we will then maybe on this particular issue look to hopefully get more feedback from the board on the project progression proposal in the next couple of CPC meetings. And in the meantime, I think I will encourage these projects to start looking at the application form and potentially emailing that list with an intent, if that sounds good to everybody.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
Super. All right. So it's 2 till, and I think that's a good thing to conclude on. Are there any questions or last minute comments or shares for today's session? All right, hearing none, I think we have been very productive today. Give yourselves a pat on the back. You guys rock.
thanks, Jory.
Thanks so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Talk to y'all soon.
Talk to y'all soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
Jory.
Thanks. Bye.